All right, welcome everybody to another Pocho Podcast, and this is the Gentefied episode. I'm here with Joel, and once again, we're going to discuss the series on Netflix, Gentefied. We are going to review and talk over in this episode, episode 2 of the series. We last left off talking about episode 1, and I'm going to give a recap real quick of that episode. It starts off with a family. 3 cousins and their grandfather. They are in the restaurant business, and they have the 3 cousins also have their own individual aspirations. They are going through gentrification in Boyle Heights in Los Angeles in California, and they are having some struggles. The series starts off with this first episode as they are struggling to pay rent for their restaurant, Mama Fina's, and the owner, the abuelito, is the Casimiro. He's the owner, and he's trying to get through this time. He's trying to find money for rent through the gentrification and the increase of prices. He gets a little bit frustrated, and there's some humor throughout the episode, but at the end, Casimiro, the owner of the restaurant, gets frustrated through the challenges of gentrification and trying to pay this rent, throws a bottle at a window, gets caught by the cops, and gets arrested.
Wait, cheeky bro.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, he's frustrated. So he goes and he gets a few drinks in him. So
Yeah.
he's walking home. And he sees a building that, it's being renovated, so it's being gentrified, and it triggers him. So he pees on the building, and then he picks up. I don't know if he picks up a bottle or it was the bottle he had from the bar.
Yeah.
Anyways, he throws it at the building, and he breaks a window, and a cop car was passing by, and they pick him up for loitering, and that's where it ends with Pops, as they refer to him.
So Pops is in jail.
Pops is in jail, man.
And that brings us to episode 2. So the frustration instilled ends him up in jail. The beginning of episode 2, he's in jail, and we can go from there on our review for this episode. So go ahead, Joel.
And it's, well, Chiquis, were you able to see who it was? Because they're playing the TV in the background, and I think it's Reagan.
That's Clinton.
I could be wrong.
It's Bill Clinton.
It was Clinton?
Yeah.
All right, man. I'm just old. So you could hear like some political discourse in the background, and Pops is he's sitting there, and he's with a little kid, and that little kid is Eric.
Yes.
And they're waiting for someone. They don't really say who. And then when he comes out, again, we're guessing it's Eric's dad, and so that's gonna be Pop's son. And he tells him before he comes out, like, I don't ever want to see you here,
Yeah.
And when the son comes out, Pops doesn't let Eric hang out. They just give a hug, and then he whisks him away. And this is part of the aspect of the show where they don't really explain what happened to the family, because it's a broken family. It's not your typical nuclear family where it's the husband, wife, and kids. It's the grandfather, and he's pretty much, his wife passed away. And then it's Eric. They don't say what happened to his parents. We just know that he lives in the house with Casimiro. And then there's Chris, who is another of his grandsons. And we know he has a dad because he talks to him on the phone, but there's no mention of the mom. And then we have Anna, who lives with the mom. And again, the mom is there with another little kid, but the dad is not in the picture, and they never really explain it.
Yeah.
So I guess those are stories for another time. But so that's how it starts with the flashback of the episode. Eric has a little kid, and then it goes to current time, and now Eric is all grown up, and he's at the station now, and it's Trompas. It's on TV now. Now it's Trump talking.
Yeah.
On the background, and so I found it a bit interesting. And then the irony that he did go back there, but it's to take out the grandpa. to try to take him out, uh, try to take him out of jail, but he was fined $4,000. They didn't say exactly for what. They didn't say exactly for what is the 4,000 because Chiquis, uh, if you get picked up, like if you're drunk walking, uh, pretty chances are they'll just let you go. As for breaking the window, you damage will have to be over $500.
Yeah, I can let that inaccuracy go. There's other
You
inaccuracies
let,
that I
gonna
don't.
let it slip.
Yeah, I let that one slip because that sort of goes to the whole episode and the reason, like the whole
Yeah, they need to
challenge of the
present a
episode.
challenge. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So there's
they
other
needed to
inaccuracies that I didn't
create.
like, but yeah, I'll let that one go. That one's okay, and yeah, I
So
agree that's not correct, but
yeah, so he's talking to the grandpa Eric, and Eric's trying to be the responsible one, and he says he's gonna go to the bail's bond, and the
yeah,
grandpa doesn't want that. So he tells him that Chris, who works at a top restaurant, so he earns good money, and not only that, but the grandfather doesn't charge him rent, because as explained in episode one, Chris's dream is to have enough money to go to culinary school in France, and so he's saving money for that. So the grandpa says, "Get the money from Chris; he'll lend it to you." But Eric and Chris have like the rivalry going. So Eric is being a bit of a hothead, uh, ego, pretty proud. Doesn't really want that. He's gonna try to figure it out himself through his own through his own means, even though he
yeah.
doesn't seem to have a penny to his name.
His little
He rides
connections.
around in a bicycle,
Yeah,
which is, I think, not pretty telling for his age, uh, especially in LA, man. Pretty much everyone has a car in LA, even if it's a bucket. But this dude rides around in a bike. Uh,
yeah, and that's a
so
little
he,
bit That's like a realistic Mexican though. Like maybe not a United States Mexican, but a Mexico Mexican.
will
Uh,
be on a bike,
Yeah,
in a
and especially
bicla.
the scene where he's on a bike and then the grandpa, not necessarily the grandpa, but like other people are on the pegs on the back of the bike. That happens quite a bit
Oh, that's
in Mexico.
well, I mean that happens here too. But as a kid, I mean, when you're like in middle school and then early on in high school, but just if you live in LA, it's just so easy to get a car.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, you're not gonna get um, a really nice car, but you could get a car. It's not that difficult to
Yeah.
get a bucket. I mean, even poor families, or with low income, even though even those families will have up to two cars,
That's
uh,
the
with
that's
with
the United
with nice
States way.
rims.
Yeah, that's the United
but
States way.
but they are in the United. But they are there.
Yeah. So
They're right here.
that's legit.
So so then we go from that to the prima, who's Anna, and so so the grandfather used to give her some money, and she used to use that money to help the mom pay rent. But now that rent is up, he can't give her money, and so it costed like a rift. It cost a rift between Anna's mom and her because she wants her to get a job, and she's an aspiring to be a painter, and she throws away her painting materials, and that was in episode one. And so in this episode, she's doing like she's doing something on social media. I don't think they specify which one, but she's doing a video and she's saying that she's willing to barter if you bring her painting utensils, she'll make a painting for you, a paint on your body or on your backpack or on your shoes. And that's when they you know, you see her later painting on some guy's panza like a mural. Well, not a mural, like some singer's face. Um, but Eric talks to Anna,
Yeah.
about getting the money.
Yeah, I think yeah, so that Anna was sort of like not in the spotlight in this one. It was well, she
No,
was a little bit, but Eric was the main guy. But I like
but
how
they
grand like
do.
well, I
What
was just gonna
happened?
say I like how the grandpa is he's trying to it seems like he tries to do the right thing at all stages of of this
Yeah.
episode and last episode, except for getting arrested. But everything else, like even the protection, and we'll probably talk about it later, the protection and the care he does, or the treatment he has for Eric and Chris, which are different, as well as Anna. And sometimes, and Eric is seeing it as unjust, but we'll talk about that, I guess, that later. But I think he's
Yeah.
correct on how he's treating all three of the kids. But yeah, so Anna,
Yeah. Well, and they do show a contrast, Chiquis, between Anna and Chris. And we're gonna discuss it a bit,
see,
which they
yeah,
show a little bit of contrast of how they are in regards to like family. Um, and so they did show it there. So he talks to her, and then he goes to a bar where Eric goes to a bar where his I think it's owned by his baby mama's
his
well, his
sweat,
girlfriend's pregnant. His girlfriend's pregnant, and he's gonna try to borrow money from the girlfriend's dad.
yeah,
And so she's there, and she has like an ultrasound. So now he has two things on the table now. He has an appointment for the ultrasound, and he has to like run around town try to get some money. So Anna obviously didn't have any money, and this is his second stop, and now he has a second thing added to, you know.
yeah. And he didn't really want to do this. Like he didn't want to resort to going to her and her family.
Well,
Um,
he doesn't go to her. He just goes to the dad,
yeah, well, the
but the
family,
dad
her
goes
dad,
into when are you gonna ask her for the hand in marriage?
and he even
And
brings
I
up
don't
a
know.
Chivas reference.
They,
He bring,
yeah, I was just gonna say it. He have to be like he doesn't have to be like the Chivas. Uh, yeah.
well, this is a good part because
Is it-
he's instilling, and it's sort of an awkward way. Like this is a weird conversation you're gonna have with the dad of your girlfriend or whatever. But anyway, he's bringing up a good aspect that he has to like be responsible, and he's doing it in a playful way. He's telling him, he's got to marry her. He's having a baby with her. He's got to be responsible, and he's got to work as a team, just like Chivas, and work to score the goal, work to pass make the good passes,
'Cause
and he's got to
he
be
didn't
with
know how
her.
Chivas is playing currently though,
Yeah.
right,
Well,
Chiquis?
that might end
He
up in
wouldn't be in.
divorce. They might
He
end up
would
in divorce. You never.
he relegated.
Episode 29, he'll be like a
Oh man,
deadbeat dad and stuff. You never know.
he did beat. Oh snap. Um, yeah. So then he goes from there, and then I think he finally has to call his primo. So and he calls him, and he's working, and he tells him you know he lets him know that Pops is in jail, and he needs money, and so he's Chris is about to leave, and his coworker tells him that the boss is on one right now, and you're gonna get in a lot of trouble, or he's gonna be really mad. So Chris tells him like, why don't you come and pick up my credit card,
Yeah.
and then that way you could get the money. And it's this is to me was the other like thing where you're like you kind of have to oversee some pretty basic flaws. There, just turn off your brain for a bit.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of those. And they're getting on him. They were like ragging on Chris about families first, and he can't leave. Like just go get the car. There's no problem with that. He has to work. The dude's in jail. You guys take care of it. But they're like
Yeah,
insulting him and saying he's not putting the family first. Um,
and well, yeah, this is where I'm a go with the whole Anna thing because Anna drops what she was doing, the whole painting,
yeah,
and she leaves with Eric. And earlier, when earlier that in the episode,
Eric leaves
Anna's
the
girlfriend
restaurant.
tells her that tells her that she got like a connection so that she could like get a job or be an apprentice to some known artist.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And so yeah, Anna kind of puts all that in the back burner to try to help. So she dropped that stuff, at least those two things, while Eric just didn't want to leave the restaurant. So that was a bit of the contrast between both of them. But my thing was, yeah, they do go, they go, and it's kind of dumb how they're in the back. They just kind of walk in
yeah.
where they're prepping the food, and you can't just get back there. But anyways, they're back there, and if you need, so this was where it's kind of dumb because if you need 4K, you know you can't take out that much from the ATM, so it's kind of dumb to give them the credit card, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but this is the other dumb part. Okay, well then maybe if he would have just gone to the station and used the card, you know, unless they just do cash. But I've never been in that situation, Chiquis. I've never had to bust anyone out of the pokey. But um, but yeah, the ATM, you can't get more than what is it, like 400, maybe 500.
Yeah, I
You,
think
you
500.
can't get that much. Yeah, if you have to go to the window, and I'm pretty sure Chris in his break could have just gone and pulled the money out. He was bound to have a break, or could have just asked the chef for a quick break to go run that errand really quick.
Yeah,
So I think that was the one thing where you're just like, hey, just don't.
yeah, I
They're
can.
they're setting something else up, so some of this logic gets swept under the rug,
Yeah, I can
and
forgive.
that goes to the bank, where to me was like, it's kind of dumb, but I guess this is where it was meant to be funny, you know. But me watching it, I'm like, this is just dumb.
Yeah, that was totally
Everything,
ridiculous.
the the whole bank. So they're in the bank. They're at like Chase, I believe it's a Chase, and Eric puts the ATM, and he obviously knows how to work it, and he can't get the money. It says you could only get 300 or whatever, and this is the dumb part. He starts banging the machine, saying, "Give me the money," which was like, one moment he's pretty literate, the second he's just like an oaf, and so everyone's looking at him all weird. They're supposed to be in the, like in the, I guess the bank's gentrified, I guess, because
A
they're
nicer part
supposed
of
to be
town.
in the area.
Yeah,
Yeah, but and then this like I don't know, we're gonna call him what, like some whitewash Latino,
yeah. His name's Mateo.
because it's Mateo. But remember, the girl tries talking to him, and he's like, I don't speak Spanish.
Well, they start talking. This is all humor and just ridiculous, you know, stuff. But they start talking like white dudes. They start talking to him like white people and saying that they're influencers, and he even makes like a messed up. He says,
Yeah,
"Oh, World Star has influencers now," so like humiliate them like they're World Star punk, people that fight and
yeah,
stuff.
it just
So it was pretty. It's humorous, I guess, but it's it's really unrealistic, that
yeah. So
interaction.
that the guy takes his credit card and he cuts it, and it's like, whoa, dude, really?
Yeah.
I mean, if they wanted to, they could have gotten him in massive, massive, just knowing today's how things are today, with the whole cancel culture and all that. Doing something like that is you could get fired, man. I think this is where they mix the times up, man. Those some of this stuff is just it just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, you
But I
just call the
guess,
cops. You just call the cops in that instance. The only reason you would rip up someone's card is if they handed it to you through the machine or and it's obviously fraud. Then they would tear it up, I guess.
yeah,
But
yeah,
they
no,
would,
not just like I just expected it.
yeah,
It's just dumb. Like the whole thing was dumb. The guy didn't even try to help. He could have been like, well, okay, have your cousin call. Maybe they could. I mean, there's just so much stuff they could have done. It just seemed like sometimes like logic goes out the window. Um,
they just
it's
had to.
just
It was just an insert of like, let me diss on you, because a lot of the episode goes on, or a lot of the show actually goes on. Let me diss you, and let me get you in trouble because of your Mexican culture or because of what you like to do. Like when they sold or when Eric told Anna that Pops was in jail. She goes, "What did he do? Was he like playing the rancheras too loud or something? The Mexican music too
yeah,
loud?" I told him like you would get arrested for that
yeah.
in the first place. It's
Then
and so the world star crack. All these things are like, you know,
well, yeah, and especially if he's in that area where they're at, like the whole boy, pretty much most of LA. That's what you're gonna hear now. It's
yeah,
all like,
loud music.
if you're bound to hear loud music, which I haven't heard it as much as I used to. I remember way back when it was a big thing to have like these really loud speakers on the car, and it was a thing for a while. I guess late '90s, early 2000s, and yeah, you would see cars coming down and the windows would be like shaking. But I think they came down hard on all that.
Yeah.
But anyways, just the fact of playing the Spanish music is not gonna get you pulled over, man. It's just so many Mexicans now.
Yeah,
Uh,
she says
you
driving
know,
while Mexican. What for
yeah,
driving while
that
Mexican?
just that's yeah, that's to me that's some
Another
of those things that are just like outdated.
another
Like
thing.
kind of outdated jokes or just don't apply to this
Yeah.
area.
Well, another joke also is that I guess we sort of like in the chronology of everything. When Eric and Anna were in the restaurant, the boss comes in. He says, "Oh, you forgot the crates again, Holmes." Like thinking that Eric is like one of the shipping guys, and Eric like
Yeah,
about to start a fight with him, and then Chris has to get in between. So that's sort of like a diss. Like he has the Raiders. I think it's a Raiders hat on and the gold chain, so he looks like some manual labor worker guys. So the restaurant chef has to like make the diss.
yeah. Well, but by this point, I think so they can't get the money. But one of the guys that Anna was painting on, when he heard, he offered to uh, he offered to lend $2,000, but he wanted Pop's truck as collateral,
Yeah.
which Eric agrees. He agrees to give him the truck, and just I don't think that truck's worth that much. It's all beat up, and they always make the joke about that, which they did say it earlier. Eric goes with a friend, and that's the comedian Felipe Esparza. He's pretty known. He's
Oh yeah.
actually from that area, and he goes to his friend, and his friend is like he's like, let me call someone, and they wanted something as collateral, and he tries to use the truck, and the guy's joking and he's saying it's that truck that when you make a left turn you have to hold on to the door so that it won't open.
Yeah.
That one part that I did actually found funny. Um, and then it was like, nah, I don't. That truck's like, it's just they didn't want to lend them, but later on he does um he does find someone to lend them the money, but they have to go to the Inland Empire. He's like, okay, we gotta go on the metro, and it's gonna take this long. So you're like, if he goes, he's gonna miss the ultrasound.
Yeah.
And so you see him on the on his way there with his friend, and he's watching like I guess father and son, or just dads with kids,
Yeah.
and it's like it's bugging him, and then I guess he has to make the choice, and he eventually goes. He skips on that, and he goes, to meet up with his baby mama at the clinic.
And this is part of the show. Like these are the things that I like. Like instead of all
That
the disses and the unrealistic jokes and
oh
stuff.
okay
This
yeah
is the part. This is the part that I like. That even and this is why I say Gramps is doing a good job, even in his treatment, which might be different between the two cousins. He's got Eric at least facing the reality that the family unit is important. That he has to go and be with her for the ultrasound
the,
and have that experience.
I agree that was the one also that stuck with me was and I forget the baby mama's name, so I'm just gonna call her the baby mama for now.
Yeah.
But but the dad when he's trying to get borrow money, and he said because he wants her to marry her, and Eric says something along the lines of, "I want to be her man, but I don't think she wants me," and that's when the guy says, "Well, she doesn't need a man; she needs a husband." I think that was also a pretty good message as well, because I think there's been this whole baby mama, baby daddy culture, where it seems fine,
Yeah.
not like form a family unit. Um, so I think those are some of the positives Uh, so he has a $2,000 from the guy that took the truck. Seems to be a family friend. And then after the ultrasound, he finally tells his his girlfriend, or well, they're not together. He tells the baby mama that Pops is in jail, and she fronts the other two G's.
Yeah, and it all works out. So
She
yeah, that's
she seems this is also the other thing. They haven't explored it, but she seems very successful. Uh, the baby mama, you
hmm
know, and you have to wonder how she ended up with Eric.
uh,
Doesn't even have a car, and he was just,
they're from the same
his
hood
job is
probably
working for his grandpa. Yeah, I don't know.
because there's
She
well,
probably was. She
th-
got drunk, dude. It was one of those nights.
well
It was like,
you could
oh
sort of
shit.
see it like they're from the same hood. They probably like grew up like in maybe in high school everyone's on the same level. Everyone's on the same social status. But after that, some
Yeah,
people aspire and actually do more things. Like Chris does more, and maybe this girl does more. The baby mama does more, and gains success. Whereas Eric and Anna not
but
so
I'm
much.
I'm I'm gonna go back to the whole car thing because it's LA, man, and
hmm
having
Yeah.
cars is a big thing here, man. And there's no way this good-looking girl that has everything going for her is
True.
gonna jump in the sack with this dude riding his bike. Even has to take bike. Even has to use his bike to go to the library. I mean, it's just it, it just
Yeah.
makes Eric seem very childish.
Yeah.
Uh, and so it just seems seems a little bit off. But again, I think they do it for comedic purposes, and they sacrifice some of the realism for just to have some throwaway jokes, which we're gonna get it towards the end, because he goes to pick up Pops, and Pops like, where's the truck, and he cousin lets him know, and so he has to take him home on his bike. He's riding on his pegs on the
Yeah.
back, as you mentioned earlier, Chiquis.
Yeah.
He's, which was the other thing, because earlier the grandpa was complaining about how he has back problems. He's like, I've been sleeping on a plastic chair or something like that. And he's like, I can't, my body can't take this. And so it's kind of dumb. The whole I'm gonna ride you, I don't know how many blocks home on a bike. And it's just very unrealistic for LA. You could easily get someone to go give
Yeah.
you a
Pick you up.
ride.
Yeah.
It's just easy. It's just, I'm telling you, there's just so many cars here. Is you know someone that has it's it's almost impossible to not know someone that doesn't. Like if you have 10 friends, 8 of them are gonna have a car.
Yeah. It's just the
And the other
humor.
two that yeah, so I was just come on. So they get back home, and I guess we're gonna jump back to Chris, because he
Yeah.
he goes with he goes to a bar after work. He gets invited, and so that was the other as well as contrast, because you would have think he would have been worried about Pops and checked in on him, instead of just assume everything was fine, and then I'm gonna go get a drink.
Yeah. He might have got a call.
But
Hey, but to
huh?
to
He might.
preface that though, man, like this goes to earlier in the show when Chris was with his fellow like workers in the kitchen. The Mexican ones are
Yes.
like they sort of have him as an outcast because they don't consider him real Mexican. And they said, "Yeah, we're gonna go to the bar after work, but only Mexicans." And so you can't go.
Yeah.
And then whenever they see Chris's cousins, Eric and Anna, in the restaurant, and they say, "Oh, those are your cousins? Oh, you might be a Mexican." So at the end, they actually invite him. So that was the only reason why he went to the bar with those guys, with those
I didn't.
guys,
I
because
didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. The one part is like, so Chris, they call him Güero,
yeah,
and I think because you know how he acts and how he speaks. But I don't think at work they would they would have the same nickname for him. I think they would have something else. But I think I don't know, man. I think at work, especially because it's kind of doesn't make sense because he works at a high-end restaurant that it's like a Michelin, has like the Michelin star, which is very difficult to get. So I'm pretty sure the majority of the cooks were going to be similar to him or more experienced. But they want to pass it off as like the dude has like just some regular Mexican line cooks working back there, which is like, I
Yeah, that's
that's
I don't know the
you're not
restaurant
supposed to
business
think
too much.
about those things, man.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
getting that's some deep analysis. That's a good question though. Like, what's the because normally like in a normal restaurant, yeah, Mexicans will be all over their cooking and stuff. But like at a high
yeah,
end,
but
I guess you could see that as
what
well.
if well, I mean, if some are working, they're probably just doing prep work, like
Yeah,
cutting stuff up or
yeah.
washing stuff, but like not if you're in line with the cooks, especially Michelin, like that's like the highest rating.
Uh,
Like if you get the Michelin star, it's like the highest possible, and it's like very difficult to get, and that's one of the reasons he works there because he needs that recommendation. So, anyways, I just think he would have been around people similar to him, where that they all had like the same culinary schooling and all that, similar ambitions, but it's the other way
well,
around. It
maybe like I don't know
seems
what
to
his
be
degree.
working with paisas, man.
Well, maybe he's on that level
uh,
though. Maybe he's on that lower sort of line grunt work level, but he has higher aspirations because he is going to. I mean, I don't know what his degree in Idaho was, but he still needs to go to an actual chef school to get to the chef level. He's not, he's still at sort of like that prep level of food, I think. So
well,
maybe he's at that lower level still, and he needs the money to go to I guess Paris to go to an actual chef school and then
yeah,
to escalate and promote himself up.
promote himself. Yeah, so he shows up. He shows up drunk,
Yeah.
and then Eric gets butthurt because Pops just tells. Wait, I said Eric shows up drunk. Huh? Chris shows up drunk, and then Pops like, hey, go to your room,
Yeah.
and then Eric gets butthurt. He's like, what? You're not gonna tell him anything, and he gets mad. So it's basically because Pops just is more trusting of Chris, who's been the more, just more responsible
Yeah.
overall, more mature than than Eric here.
Yeah, and
And this was kind of what happened.
I was just gonna say that's the interesting part of how you from the outside and from maybe Eric's perspective, that's favoritism. But I think Pops is sort of giving their due. Like maybe in the back or
Well,
in
yeah,
previous times, Eric hasn't proved his himself to be
no.
responsible and mature,
Well, I
whereas
mean,
Chris
just he
has.
drives a bike, man.
Yeah, you earned a sort of respect and treatment from
Yeah, which is
your guardians.
well. Then that's the other thing, because he tells him, and I believe this was in episode 1, where he explains to Terry that he wasn't charging rent for Chris, and he tells him, Eric's complaining why, and he tells him because he has a goal, he wants to achieve something in life, and I'm gonna help him. And that's like the one thing that I guess Eric doesn't understand. He's just kind of hard headed like that, kind of slow. if he's banging on ATM machines thinking it's gonna spit up more money than allowed. Um, so he, so that's the thing, and he doesn't seem to have. He seems just irresponsible riding on a bike.
Yeah.
Has his got his baby mama pregnant who doesn't want to be with him. You know, so that things like that. He just doesn't seem. He just seems to go with the flow, and so I kind of this scene I thought it was a bit off, but I guess they wanted the shot. So you see him smoking a cigar. He's sitting on the street, and that street is Whittier. So
Uh,
that's like one of the main streets, and so you had like the Whittier corridor back in the days, and that's where like the Mexicans, they used to go on the lowriders, and they used to go pretty far up through those streets. But so if you went on the weekends, you would be stuck there in traffic, man, because they would drive really slow. I don't know how far up they went, and then they would turn back. So it was just cruising, and on both sides you would see just the really nice cars. They eventually got rid of that, you know. They started putting police blocks and all that. But like for many years, as you go back into 80s, 90s, especially Mexican community, there wasn't much around here. And so a lot of the shopping and stuff like that, you would go to Whittier, just in East LA. And you get all the way up to like, I think it's like by Goodrich in Commerce, and you had like you had a theater, what's still there. Theater, there was like a Kmart and a Target and a bunch of stores. And that was like just a to-go spot, man.
Yeah. And then you have I guess the last scene is the Captain America guy driving the truck with his
The
music
trucks,
blasting. He's
oh,
driving
that's
yeah,
true.
he's driving the truck that he bought or
He's
bartered
all
or
happy.
yeah.
Well, you know, that's the other thing. For 2000, you could have gotten a better car. that's the that's the way he's. And so you know what, Chiquis, I would have preferred if that truck was pimped out a bit, or there
Yeah.
was something unique about it, instead of looking dumpy, you know. Because then that way you could show off that I got this car, you know, it's gonna be mine for this amount of time.
Yeah,
If it
true.
looked, you know, if it was like a classic car, doesn't even have to be that pimped out. It could just be like an old, those 50s really nice looking old trucks, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like it looks like it's falling apart.
It was
The
Pop's.
radio doesn't even
It
move.
was
Yeah,
Pop's truck, so he
that's
was
those are the things where I feel like sometimes they sacrifice, like, you know, some of the story stuff for like a cheap gag, you know.
yeah.
But there's the other scene too, Chiquis, where Anna goes to the girlfriend because she missed her appointment with the artist,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and she has like a heart-shaped box, but instead of chocolates, it's tacos, and then she offers tacos and weed as for you know,
Yeah,
she made her look bad.
that was sort of cheesy. Like the
That
heart-shaped
you
tacos
you
instead
wouldn't
of
do that for
chocolates.
Valentine's, Chiquis. This,
Not in
you
some
wouldn't.
heart-shaped taco thing, man. You know, maybe a
Yeah,
regular
man,
plate or
that's
something, but that's like the culture. That's like a cultural thing. It's like the Takis and the hot Cheetos and all this stuff. It's um like the Mexican love of tacos. Like you might see white people or like kids these days, they'll be like, "Oh, I want some pizza. I love pizza, 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 pizza." And then for Mexicans,
yeah.
it's tacos. Like you got to insert the tacos to be, the cool Mexican.
Yeah, I guess they do these little. Yeah, it's just like they got these little gags running around, and they're very hit and miss.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say most of the time it's miss. It's just, yeah,
Yeah.
I do think I you know it's still entertaining, but I feel like some of the writers, I don't think they're from this area, you know, where it's like um, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're more like East Coast, because no one has a car, man. And I'm pretty sure Eric should have had one. I mean, Chris should have a car. Because Chiquis, they show one of the things that Eric does while he has the ATM. He checks the balance,
Oh yeah, he's got some
and
money.
yeah, it was 20. It was 20 G's. So I mean, if this guy he could have bought a car like for that money, he would have had a new one, or if he wanted to, just
Well, it
probably like
depends.
even for like 5 G's, you could get a half decent one. But there's no way he's working at a 5-star Michelin restaurant and he's always taking the bus. I mean, he would have had at least a bucket to make sure he's always there. Because if even bus metro, depending where you're going, it's still, you know, it's still not as fast as if you're driving.
It depends though.
Um,
Like if like
so,
he's going to Paris, right, for chef school. So you got to think about
yeah,
the cost of the chef school, the cost of living there for however
but
long.
it's at LA, Chiquis. You need a car, man. There's just no
Yeah.
way around that. Eventually, you need to have a ride. And so, I mean, Pop's the only one, but from those youngins, one of them
One
should
of them
have
should
one,
have,
man.
yeah.
Not just a bike. but,
Or
but I
maybe it's
think
the
it's like,
struggles. Maybe it's the struggles of
yeah.
LA,
Well,
dude.
and then
You don't know
you
our
know what the
life.
You
You
know,
don't
even
know the
with
struggle.
the struggle is real. No, I think it's more of an East Coast, just because the way it is over there, where it's just people take the metro and it's just not as prevalent as over here. Um, and I guess because I'm assuming it's more expensive, like New York stuff like that, you know. Because I think you can't just park outside the way you can here. I think you have to pay
Well,
for you know,
it could be the
parking spots and all that.
authenticity of Mexican culture, though, because like in
But
Mexico,
that's not authentic.
yeah, in
Yeah,
Mexico.
but it's not in Mexico. Chiquis is
Well,
taking
that's
place
what I'm
here
saying. There,
in
like a lot
LA.
of this stuff is trying to push the Mexican narrative to everybody, like with the tacos, with the which it does exist, but this bicycle thing is in Mexico you don't just see little kids riding bicycles. You see grown adults going to work on bicycles in Mexico, and maybe not like
Well, you
a
to some
BMX bike.
extent, well, to some extent you see it here too, Chiquis. But I mean, this dude owns a restaurant, you know,
Yeah,
um, Casimiro. And, he, well, or he has one, and it's been open for a long time. So
yeah, I
I'm
agree.
assume Eric's worked there long enough that he would have had a bucket. It's just LA stuff, man. There's
Yeah, I
no
agree.
way
I agree.
you go that far without owning this guy. This guy's just on his bike, man. Um,
Yeah,
which is
I agree. The
probably took the
realism.
girl out.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I
realism
mean,
for a car
how
is
did?
there. A car should be there. I'm just my point is
Yeah, and
just that
then and
they
also
try to inject the Mexican culture or this is the cool Mexican thing and like that's the point of a lot of the show, which is sort of
yeah,
awkward.
I think with some of the stereotypes, they play into some stereotypes that don't make sense. So to me, it just doesn't make any sense. Even Pops with the bucket. I don't think he should be driving a bucket. I mean, not that it's not possible, but dude, you're running a restaurant. You know, if you have a car that keeps breaking down, how are you gonna bring supplies? So you need it, you know, to go buy stuff or just to do general things. So he should have a half decent looking truck. But I think if you wanted to use that like plot thing where that one friend is now enjoying his car, then I think it should have looked nice. You know,
Yeah.
would have been a nice looking truck. And then that guy would have been like, you know, I got your stuff.
Yeah. So much to discuss on the little aspects of this thing. But yeah, that's pretty much all you had? That's the whole episode right there, I guess.
That is, yeah, it's gonna. So I mean, so like season three now is it's all about
Or episode
basically
3.
is on on a no, I mean just pretty much like a preview of what to expect, and it's Pops needs to figure something out because you know rent costs more money, so he needs to figure something out of how to make you know how to get the funds. Chris needs to ponerse las pilas because he has a kid on the way, and he you know they kind of foreshadow it. He needs to win over the girl back, you know, so he needs to figure something out right there. And then as far as it kind of for Chris is a bit of his like identity crisis, you know, like
Yeah.
because I guess he's not ghetto. I don't I don't get it, man. I don't really know what the writers are going. Like it just seems too conflicting for me.
He's
But the whole thing is like
yeah.
he kind of questioning where he stands in all this. And then the girl, Anna needs a job because the mom needs money. The mom, she works like at a sweatshop and she does sewing. And it's like, well, you need to work, man. If you're gonna paint, that's not gonna put money in the table. So she needs, and she does have like a part-time job. They show her working briefly at that bar, but it's just like part-time. She doesn't make that much money.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake that this show might be making and other people think as well is like to be truly Mexican, you have to be certain, you have to do and be a certain way. You can't be successful, you can't be a landlord, you can't be a successful chef. You have to, be on a lower level, which is sort of wrong.
Well,
And
they
they
did.
bring it out in Chris the way they treat Chris, but
It's true. And then in the first episode, the way Fez So the character Wilder Valderrama,
Yeah.
he appears in the first episode and he's a landlord, and yeah, he comes across as a douche. And but it's like you said, man, this guy has it going for him if he owns that building that Pops had all these years to have bought, and for some reason or another, probably spent his money fixing his dump truck.
They need to make a show,
But
man. They need to make a show called like Corporate America, and
corporate,
you're like following Mexican executives of like
see
dollar
how they
companies,
are.
and see how they
You
they're
know
like
what? That would
dealing
be
in
interesting,
trillions of
Chiquis.
dollars.
You might be joking, but I think that I would actually like to see that. Because yeah, I'm with you there, man. The whole vilifying someone that's successful, making them out to be a certain way, is is. But and at the other side of the token, the girl is she's doing good. The baby mama, I still don't know the name, but I'm gonna get a little bit ahead of myself. But it's in the episode 3 or 4 where she got accepted into some fancy school or something.
Oh, okay.
So I guess if it works out for her, season 2 she could be hated. she, she could turn bad. She,
Uh-oh.
uh,
Alrighty. There we
but
go.
yeah, that's pretty much it, man. That was the
All right, man. Thanks.
we've been rewatching the show to bring these important plot points.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's a lot of information. We've gone like 50 minutes, I think. So thanks a lot for.
Oh man, I thought it was 20.
I might be wrong, but that's what my timer says. But yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of information that off that one episode, and so we'll do episode number 3 shortly, hopefully sooner, as we are quarantining ourselves or
Yeah, man.
self-isolating or whatever we're doing over here. So hopefully we'll have these out.
And social distancing.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, and actually, my wife made a mask for me, dude. It's got the Mexican national
nice.
team logo. I'll show it later on. But
Picture
All right, man.
will be nice, yeah.
yeah, thanks
All
for
right, Chiquis.
thanks for coming on. Thanks for everyone for listening. We'll talk to you guys later.